Hey, kindergarten and first grade, it's Mrs. Seals back for our next science lab. So last week we started talking about what we call natural resources, which hopefully you remember are things that come from the earth that we use. So last week, kindergarten, you were talking about rocks. First grade, you were talking about soil. This week, we are talking about the same natural resource, which is water. So let's get started, and specifically what we call natural sources of water. So kindergarten, your target says I can observe and describe physical properties of natural sources of water. First grade, I can identify and describe a variety of natural sources of water. So pretty similar there. That's why we're doing the same video. So water is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless liquid. That means it doesn't have a color to it. It's clear. Odorless means it doesn't have a smell to it, and tasteless means it doesn't really have a taste. Liquid that makes up lakes, seas, rivers, and oceans, and is the primary liquid found in living organisms. So, what that means is that all living things, meaning all plants, all animals, all insects, must have water to survive and have water inside of us. Without water, we would not be able to survive. All living things need water. So, a natural source of water, natural sources of water are places where we find water naturally. And remember, naturally means created by the earth, not by people. A swimming pool is a man-made source of water. It's not a natural source. So I'm going to give you a second if you would like to pause the video, see if you can think of any natural sources of water. Where could you find water naturally on the earth? When you're ready, come back and then I'll show you some that we're going to talk about today. So here are 5 sources of natural sources of water. There are some others, but these are the 5 we're going to focus on today, making sure we understand the difference between them and that sort of thing. So the first one is an ocean. Then we have a lake, rivers, ponds, and streams. Those are the 5 natural sources of water that we're going to discuss. So let's talk about oceans first. Um, Hopefully you probably know, you probably have some background knowledge about oceans. Maybe you've been to the ocean before. Oceans are very, very big. When you look at a picture of the earth taken from outer space, most of the earth looks blue. That's because most of it is covered in ocean water. Oceans have what we call salt water. So if you've ever been to the ocean before or swam in the ocean, you know that it has salt water, because if you've accidentally gotten it in your eyes or your nose or your mouth, you can kind of taste it. It kind of burns. If you have like a cut or something on your skin, the salt water really burns it as well. So this is why we cannot drink the ocean water, because it has salt water. Oceans make up 70% of the earth. So that goes back to what I was saying before about how the oceans are very, very large and take up most of the earth. And oceans are always moving and flowing. And if you've been, you know that they have lots of waves. Oceans are home to many, many, many plants and animals. So I want to go back to talking about salt water. So we said that water is a natural resource. That means it comes from the earth and we use it. And water is extremely important to us. We drink water, we take a bath in water, we give water to our pets and our plants, we brush our teeth, we wash our hands, we cook with it. We would not be able to survive without water, and neither would any living thing. So it's very important that we take care of the water that we do have. So you might be thinking, well, Miss Seals, we have tons of water on Earth. You just said most of the Earth is covered in water. And when I look at a picture of the earth, it looks very blue because of all the water. And you're right. However, remember that is salt water, and salt water is water that we cannot use. We cannot drink salt water. We don't give salt water to our pets. We do not take a bath or brush our teeth in salt water. So we have to, the type of water that we do use is called fresh water. And that's just a little bitty tiny amount of the water that we have on Earth. That's why it's important to take care of and protect our water and keep it clean. So oceans, let's talk about our next natural source, which are lakes. Lakes are big, but not as big as oceans. Lakes are large bodies of water surrounded by land. If you look at my picture right here, you see all the water, and all on all sides of it surrounding it is land, mountains and things like that. And most lakes have fresh water. There are a few lakes on Earth that are full of salt water. There's one in Utah called the Great Salt Lake, but most lakes have fresh water, which means it's water that does not have salt in it, and we can use it for drinking and bathing and things like that. That does not mean that we drink the water straight out of the lake. That wouldn't be safe. But the water gets taken out of lakes and sent to a place called a water treatment plant. And there it gets cleaned and treated and made safe for us to be able to use. We're very lucky where we live because we have 2 lakes nearby. You may have been to them before. We have Lake Belton and we have Lake Stillhouse. And that is where here where we live, we get the majority of our drinking water. Again, we don't use the water or drink the water straight out of the lakes. It gets cleaned and treated and made safe for us. The next one are rivers. Rivers are a large stream of water that runs into a lake or ocean. Rivers are always moving and flowing. So notice how this river kind of makes like an S shape. That's because that water is always moving and flowing. Rivers have fresh water. We here in Texas, I don't know exactly how many. We have lots of rivers here in Texas. We are very, very lucky to have so many rivers nearby. Rivers are very fun to play in or go tubing in because that water is always moving. Lots of plants and animals live in the rivers as well. Then we have ponds. There's a picture of a pond. Ponds are small bodies of still water surrounded by land. So it's not like the river where the water is always moving and flowing. This water is very still. Ponds are similar to lakes, but they're much, 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 much smaller. Sometimes ponds are so small that people can have them in their yards, but you couldn't have a lake in your yard because lakes are much, much bigger. Ponds are similar to lakes in that they are water, still water, surrounded by land, just smaller. Most ponds are freshwater. There are some areas when you get close to the ocean where the ponds and the ocean water kind of meets together, which we call an estuary, where you will find more salt water in there, but for the most part, ponds are freshwater. This one I would assume is probably freshwater. So when you think of pond, think of like a lake, but smaller. And then the last one are streams. And streams are small, narrow rivers of flowing and moving water. So when you think of a stream, I want you to think of a river, but much, 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 much smaller. Just like a pond is like a lake, but smaller, a stream is like a river, but smaller. Notice how this stream, the water is moving and flowing, but this is so small and shallow, meaning it's not deep, that you could easily just kind of walk across this. But think back to the picture of the river, much, much bigger. You would not be able to safely just walk across that, right? And streams are freshwater. Okay, so today what we're going to be doing, this is a science lab that is not extremely hands-on. I wish that we could take a field trip and go visit some of these natural bodies of water, but we cannot. So we're going to do the best we can, but we're making sure that we understand the difference between those natural bodies of water and their characteristics. So right here, I have some different pictures of some natural bodies of water. I'm going to show them to you and you are going to see if you can think of the name of them. If you need to look back at the video, you're welcome to. So here's the first one. Hopefully you can see it okay. I'll tell you a little bit about it. Maybe that will help you. I noticed that this is very small. So it's not one of the bigger bodies of water. I noticed that it looks like it is a very small area of still water, not moving, and it's surrounded by land. So who can remember the small body of still water that is surrounded by land? I'll give you a second to think about it, and I will let you know that this is a pond. A pond is a small, still body of water surrounded by land, similar to a lake, but much, much smaller. All right, so that's our pond. Let's try another one. Ooh. All right. So in this picture, I notice that I see some really big waves crashing. I'm assuming this body of water is very, very big because I don't see any land in this picture. So I'm thinking about which body of water is very large and has big waves. I'll give you a second to think about it. And hopefully you came up with an ocean. This is a picture of an ocean. Good job. All right, let's try a couple more. All right. Here we have, it looks like a large body of water, right? So I'm thinking it's not a pond or a stream because I know those are smaller. It's large, and I noticed that it's kind of making this curving S shape, which means that water is moving and flowing. I definitely wouldn't be able to just walk across this because it looks very big and very deep. So what is our large natural source of water that is moving and flowing? It carries waters to the ocean. I'll give you a second to think about it. And this is a river. Hopefully you came up with a river. All right, let's try two more. Ooh, some of these look so pretty. They make me want to go on a vacation. Let's see here. All right. Here's our next one. This looks like a very large body of water surrounded by land. I don't really see that curved S shape, so I don't think this water is moving. I think it's what we would call still. So think about what is the large body of water that is still and not moving, surrounded by land. I'll give you a second to think about that. And hopefully you came up with a lake. This one is a lake. This is called Crater Lake in Oregon. Beautiful. Doesn't it look lovely? I want to go there. All right, our last one. This is a small natural source of water where the water is moving. I know that it's small. I could easily kind of walk across it. It doesn't look very deep. It doesn't look very wide. The water is moving and flowing though. So think about which one did we talk about that is small and has moving and flowing water. Hopefully you came up with a stream. This is a picture of a stream. Good job. All right, I hope that you had fun today learning about some natural sources of water. I will see you next time when we continue talking about our natural resources. Bye guys, have a good day.